White Cross, North Carolina. My mother swears the empty highway is becoming less so. Every time she points a sun-loved finger to the single filling station, where the old men still play checkers on a worn-in board just as they did when there were fewer cars on the road. For 50 years she has left and returned again, unsettled by the stories she will not tell her children. She nods in recognition as we pass the home of the one ex-husband she would rather I had never learned of. Her mother sits on splintering kitchen chairs, waiting in the small, full house where she was raised. The grandfather I never knew still has shirts hanging in the closet. The past is locked away from me in torn albums of faded, square photographs marked with month and year. Younger versions of women and men in the two-lane highway keep their secrets to themselves.
Try to live my life easy, that's what I do. I know that I've gotta keep on moving, so that's what I'll do, yeah. You keep moving on, 'cause when you stop moving your feet, you ain't going nowhere but into deep, yeah.
From the Hotel des Balcons, I walked along narrow streets to the marketplace. It was Friday afternoon, late, and the vendors were beginning to shut down for the day, bringing in their fruits and vegetables, taking down the ducks and chickens they had festooned like ornaments from the ceiling. Then, as if by accident, I saw them, the clay-red flower pots, discarded pots de fleurs that beckoned even as they lay in dirt and mud and dung. I recall that Paris morning now with a fond haze that clings like ice to a window in winter. Time leaves only an imprint, half a memory of winding streets and terracotta pots de fleurs. Years later, as I look back, I know that moment changed everything for me. As different cities have intervened, I still carry with me the fading light of an open market, and the desire to find a connection when nothing lingers but deserted streets and lonely spaces.
In my teaching practicum, they told us to wait after we asked students a question in order to give students a chance to think and respond. Don't be afraid of the silence. Someone will answer within a few moments, they said. I'm not afraid of the silence. Instead, I progressed through the 5 stages of waiting for a student to respond. Denial. Someone will answer my question. I am so proud of them. They're really thinking about the question I asked. Anger. Why isn't anyone answering my question? They probably didn't even do the reading. I'm not the one who needs to learn this stuff. Bargaining. Please just let one person guess at an answer. I promise I will not make a face no matter how irrelevant their comment is. Depression. What's the point in even asking them questions? They didn't read. They don't care. They are perfectly happy with a C in this class. Acceptance. No one is going to answer. they don't answer, it'll be okay. A hand raises. Thank God.
Okay, everybody, now we're gonna play a game.
Hello, all you people out there in Game Land. Today we're gonna play an exciting new game called Loop-A-Lot.
You might like to join us in the National Drinking Game. Just answer yes or no to the following 10 questions.
There's no more sporting or legal thing to do than to proceed to the nearest county courthouse or sporting goods store for that passport to Game Bird joy. Everything is hunky-dory, gobble-gobble.
Listen, you kids at home can do this too. Everybody get down on the floor and crawl around and oink like a pig.
America, center of equal daughters, equal sons, all alike and good. Perennial with the earth, with freedom, law, and love.
Just take off your shoes. Just take off your shoes. You have nothing left to lose. Just take off your shoes.
These shoes stay on my feet. These shoes stay on my feet. These shoes stay on my feet. These shoes stay on my feet.
S&M.
The flamboyant shoe. Too high to wear.
Cool professional.
Yeah, like the kind of cool professional that I can't really pull off.
Danger. Fabrics of Hollywood.
Oh, I was thinking like a classy vampire.
Homeless.
Oh, like the hipster chic that pretends to be homeless.
Cowboy. Boring, sad, horrible, comfortable.
School, almost.
Cheap.
Kind of slutty.
Old.
I like that sound. I love that sound.
It's the sound of my shoes.
But she does seem to be attached to him.
Do you think people who like you hurt you sometimes without meaning it?
And sometimes you get to wondering. You wonder if anyone really cares.
Let's talk about reflection. Things that light will do when it hits a boundary between two media. Look, I've moved away from the normal. So what you want to think of when you see that is somebody spreading out.
Reflection is a tricky concept. Reflection is a tricky concept. Reflection is a tricky concept. It's not just one thing, it's a whole range of different things to different people. And many people rest on one part of it, perhaps not all parts of it. There isn't one definition for
The concept of 60, your video must be 60 seconds long. It has to stop at 60. At 60. You know, what might you be able to cut and trust the audience is able to make that leap? At 60. So you're finding concrete examples to illustrate this concept. Concrete examples. Strip your video of all actual matching audio, as this is a way of teaching you some more creative approaches. You must secure permissions for all materials used in your project. Fair use, things of the public domain, Creative Commons licensing, tell a story, you have to make an argument, you have to express something, you have to persuade. I leave that completely open. Powerful text. And that I should value this thing, that it's not a finger exercise, even though it's teaching them a lot about the skills that they need to work on a larger project. And then this last one, not 61, it has to stop at 60.
Don't want to be afraid, hard not to hesitate, but we can't wait to be the change. It's not too late, free from hate. Think of the future that we could create. Face the facts today. There's a better way. Take one step back and say there's a better way.
In his 2013 commencement address to the graduating class of Denison University, President Dale T. Noble challenged the new alumni to go beyond simply becoming critical thinkers. He cited 18th century educator William Smith. Smith remarked on the eve of the American Revolution that thinking, writing, and acting well is the grand aim of a liberal education. Critical thinking is necessary, but not sufficient in an educated life. Noble questioned, what are you going to do about it? Asking ourselves that question is what forces us to go beyond unmasking and debunking and compels us into action. Don't just see or name a problem. Make a difference. Be the difference. What are you going to do about it?
Miss Jensen, how often should you change napkins when you're menstruating?
Fresh is simple with Summer's Eve, the most convenient disposable dish you can buy.
Throughout the civilized world, race hygiene ideas take root.
But you should be more careful than ever about personal cleanliness and dainties. Change your underwear more often, and be sure and use a deodorant. And pay more attention to your hair and your nails, and plan to wear your prettiest dress. In other words, be your most attractive self.
The boys! The boys! After the blood come the boys. Like
Gandhi once said, "The greatness of a nation and its moral progress could be judged by the way its animals are treated." Using that measure, the U.S. has some work to do. Today, an animal entering a shelter in America has a 50% chance of being killed, and in some communities, it is as high as 99%. Many of us support animal charities such as the U.S. Humane Society, the ASPCA, and PETA. They too euthanize healthy animals to make room for more. An estimated 3 to 4 million shelter animals are euthanized each year. Some have serious behavioral problems, and some are seriously ill, but many are euthanized because the system deems their time is up. And when shelters have no room, animals die. It's that simple, and it's unacceptable. What we need is a paradigm shift in the way we think about our animals. I think we are moving in the right direction, especially with the no-kill movement, but we have quite a way to go before the way we treat animals demonstrates the greatness of our nation and our moral progress.
There are moments in American history so heavily saturated with images that their representational residue remains quite potent. I first saw the images of Kennedy's assassination as a 9-year-old boy. They troubled me then and fascinate me now. Decades later, I'm drawn especially to Jackie's pink pillbox hat. She wore it like a crown that day. As she reaches for the president, it reminds me of a nurse's cap like the one my mother once wore. But as Johnson is sworn in, the pink hat has vanished. First worn in London in 1962, it was never seen after that fateful day. I like to think of its disappearance as a cultural marker of sorts. An aesthetic shift was going to take place.
Few Mississippians are old enough to remember the majestic old-growth pine forest that earned the area its nickname. Longtime Hattiesburg resident Mrs. Lamar Hennington recalls the huge trees that could reach as high as 160 feet and up to 7 feet across.
And those beautiful virgin pines, well, we don't have the virgin pine anymore. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing you ever saw. Great big trees this big around. All the woods just filled with them, and you could get in your buggy and drive all out onto the woods. There's no undergrowth in there. I thought that was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And there was so little undergrowth in there. You could just, well, we used to drive when I was in Columbia, just get in the buggy and drive out in the woods just to see the woods, because I'd never seen anything like that. And those trees were the most beautiful things in the world.
In college, writing meant stringing words together at first by hand on paper, and then when you were pretty sure you knew what you wanted to say, then you typed it up. Including an image of any sort was not only not expected, it was difficult. Though it wasn't as difficult as editing was, because that meant that damned correction tape that never quite worked if, God forbid, you hadn't already hit return, or worse, retyping whole pages to fix one sentence. Anyway, an image involved photocopying it, cutting it out, taping it to the spot left in the typewritten document, and then photocopying the whole thing again, and your choice of images was limited to whatever you could find in print. So much easier to write now. There's all these possibilities. So why then do my students, who write more than any generation before them, still think writing means 8.5 by 11 white pages?
Ever learn to type 10 words a minute?
Mommy.
Hi.
Mama.
I love you. How old are you? Yeah? Yeah, can you giggle?
Mama.
Is that funny? Can you do it? Can you do it? Put the ball in the hoop. Good job. All around the garden, like steady hands. 1 step, 2 step. Tickle me right there. Where are your feet?
Mommy.
You say hi. Good job. Hi, Mommy.
Mama. Mommy. Mama. Mommy. I love you.
Education, then, beyond all other devices of human origin, is the great equalizer of the conditions of men and women, the balance wheel of the social machinery. Horace Mann, 1848.
Now, even with better high schools, most young people will need some higher education. It's a simple fact. The more education you've got, the more likely you are to have a good job and work your way into the middle class. But today's skyrocketing costs price too many young people out of a higher education or saddle them with unsustainable debt.
The balance wheel of the social machinery. The balance wheel of the social machinery.
My dad was a professor of physics and thought always in scientific terms. When we were kids, he kept us always thinking about the physical world. Whenever anything would happen, he would look and say, you know, there's a lot of physics involved there. So he had a different way of thinking about sound and music, and the result has been a remarkable set of musical instruments and a real treasure for our family. He has made a remarkable and unexpected contribution to the wonder and beauty of music in the world, but always approaching it from the point of view of a scientist. I love playing my cello.
What makes people like one person and not another?
Frenemy is somebody that's your friend for 3 reasons, and 3 reasons only. To use you, they want to be you. You're the only person that's stupid enough that they can find to be their trifling behind's friend. They always have something negative to say about people that are not around. And what do you think they're talking about when you're gone? They don't like to see you happy. They don't like to see people like you. They don't like to see you with somebody. This friend is all about them and all about their world, and they're a frenemy. They need to go.
Regina George is flawless. One time, she punched me in the face. It was awesome.
How do the material features of a campus define the values of the institution? At The Ohio State University in Columbus, the facade of one of the older buildings proclaims that the university values justice, freedom, democracy, knowledge, experience, and fairness. The size of the football stadium confirms that athletics are indeed privileged. The Macintosh computers in an English department lab signal that the university supports technology, even if the lab is crowded when it is full of people. The renovation of Sullivan Hall suggests that the arts, as well as athletics, are regarded as important. The most prominent statue on campus pays homage to a patriarchal figure, a former president, who might well have advised students to work harder, as inscribed on the stairs of Denny Hall.